So, reiterating, my name's Lars Hedbys. I'm CEO of Idogen. We've published a number of press releases lately, so this is a good opportunity to give you an update about where we are and where we're going. Idogen is a company that's listed on Spotlight stock market since 2015. If you look at this slide, there's a tagline: when the immune system has become your enemy. Now, you know the immune system is our defense system. It's very important for our survival, but sometimes it goes in the opposite direction and creates medical problems for us. Now, the problem here that we are looking into is unwanted immune system activation. So when the immune system activates, goes into defense mode when we don't want it to. First example is transplantation. Of course, if you introduce a new kidney into the body, it's natural that the immune system says, stop, this is a foreign object that needs to go away. So patients on transplantation, undergoing transplantation, need to be on immune suppressive medication for the rest of their life. Anti-drug antibodies is the next area, and this is a growing problem. Typically small molecules, they operate under the radar of the immune system, but sometimes large biologics have a size that makes them visible to the immune system's radar, if you may. And when the immune system decides there's a foreign protein, we call them antigens, then they go away and the treatment is absolutely useless. So this is a growing problem with the increasing number of biological drugs. Third one is a problem, the autoimmune diseases. In that case, the immune system has, for some reason unknown, decided to fight proteins which belong to ourselves. And this is sort of an error in the programming of the immune system. Now, common feature with all these areas are that they are lifelong, they're chronic, you cannot cure them. What if you could treat these with a long-lasting treatment that in many ways resembles a vaccination, sort of a small number of injections and a very long duration of effect. Now that's the dream that we're working on in Idogen. So how does it work? We are working with a cell that's called the dendritic cell. The dendritic cell is sometimes known as the conductor of the immune system. Tells the immune system where enemy is and where friend is. So typically two types of dendritic cells: the immunogenic cells that you have to your left over there. Those are the ones that we activate when we receive a classical vaccination. They tell the immune system this is how the enemy looks like and this is where you should sort of fight the enemy. The green ones, the tolerogenic dendritic cells, they are present in the body all the time and they tell the immune system this is how I look. And I should, of course, not be treated and I should not be the target of the defense system. We want to change this balance to create more of the green tolerogenic dendritic cells specific for the antigens that we're looking into. Now, in practical, if you look to the left, the purple cell is a precursor of the tolerogenic dendritic cell. We take that and move that into a green tolerogenic dendritic cell, and as part of that cocktail we have the relevant antigen, and the other part is we have a molecule that's called cebulerin. We also have a number of follow-up molecules to cebulerin that is essential in driving and creating the tolerogenic dendritic cell. If we look to the right on your side is how does it work in practice. Now, if you are a patient sitting in Malmö, for instance, you would go to the hospital, you would do a leukapheresis, which is a way of extracting the white blood cells out of your body, standardized method. Take out blood cells, send them to us. We have a production facility in Lund. Production takes roughly 2 weeks. Package the cells, freeze them, send them back to Malmö, and you receive 3 to 4 injections, 2 weeks intervals, and after that, everything should be completed. Now, there are two take-home messages from this slide. First of all, we anticipate long-term effect. And this effect is it's important that it's long-term because, as you can understand, this is a very expensive treatment. We anticipate several years efficacy of this treatment, and if that works, there's no problem. However, if the effect turns out, and we're a year and a half or something like that from clinical studies, if the effect turns out to be 3 months, then our business model is not going to work. So expensive treatment, but we anticipate long duration of effect. That's the first one. The second one is, if you look over to the left, changing antigen, but leaving the rest as it is, you move from one indication to another. And we've got something like 80 to 100 autoimmune diseases. So this is a technology platform, if you may, and if it works in 1 or 2 of the clinical areas that we're looking into, there's a high likelihood that it's going to work in a number of other diseases. Now, the first project that we have, which is most advanced, is in Hemophilia A. We call the project IDO8. We're not going to cure Hemophilia A, it's not possible, but we're curing the problem of anti-drug antibodies. Now, Hemophilia A is a disease that is a genetic defect that only sort of affects men or boys. These have deficiency, so they can't produce factor VIII, which is a very essential coagulation protein. Today, these patients are given injections with factor VIII, and in many cases it works very well. But sometimes, because of the size of factor VIII being a large protein, it attracts the interest of the immune system, which breaks down factor VIII, and it's completely useless. There are some ways of treating these, but a number of patients are not sort of restored to normal behavior in terms of factor VIII. And these are the patients that we are sort of looking into. So there's a very large medical need, a group of patients that are very expensive for society. It's an orphan indication, and we have today orphan designation status, both in Europe and in the USA. Now, the second disease that we're looking into, we call it IDO-T, is in transplantation. And we'll be looking into kidney transplantation. And as you can understand, we're now talking about a disease which is a lot bigger than Hemophilia A. Patients with undergoing transplantation, they need to be on lifelong immune suppressive medication. Problem with that is that it leads to unwanted infections, of course, and also an increased risk of cancer. One reason why we're looking into transplantation is not only the size of the market is interesting, but it's also very T-cells driven, which fits our technology very well. And it's also a prophylactic treatment, and immunologists are of the view that if you can start and modify the immune system before the war starts, the effect has a better likelihood of succeeding. And our aim, of course, with this treatment is to make sure that either we completely get rid of the need for immune suppressive medication, or we significantly can reduce the immune suppressive medication. Now, we recently communicated that we're looking into the third indication for us, and this is the third of the 3 areas where our technology could be of relevance, and this is the autoimmune disease. And we're right now in a process where we're assessing autoimmune diseases and to look into diseases that we are specifically targeting in this first round, which are severe diseases with a large medical need, high cost for society, orphan designation, and also indications with a high T-cells involvement. So we're now working on that. We're planning a number of proof of concept studies, and we hope to be able to come back to you shortly with some data, assuming we're successful in these studies. If we look back where we are, what we've delivered, we've produced a number of data supporting our technology. We've found that Cebulerin upregulates the enzyme IDO1, which is really where everything started in our case. IDO1 is an enzyme which is very well known for decades to be important when the immune system speaks immune tolerance. So we found that Cebulerin upregulates IDO significantly. And THP1 cells are human cells that you could have, that you can grow in a culture. We've also shown proof of concept in a number of indication, rheumatoid arthritis model, and we've also shown efficacy in a transplant rejection in rats. Both of those, we've seen very long duration of effect, which is really important for us and also consistent with the theory and what we hope to achieve. We've also seen proof of concept with dendritic cells in a rat model of hemophilia A. Also in this case, long duration of effect. And finally, we've also shown that human dendritic cells, that we can create human dendritic cells that show something that looks like tolerance in a test tube, because we're not in the clinic yet. Value inflection point, something which is really important for you investors. We're looking into proof of concept with IDO-T. We're looking into proof of principle and proof of concept in different models of the autoimmune indication, Ido-A-ID. And we're also hoping to come back to you with showing that we can scale up the process for production of Ido-8 from the lab where we are now into a GMP facility. And similarly to Xintela, we also have our own GMP facility. And also, towards the end of the year, we hope to be able to come back with a safety package for Ido-8 in preparation of the clinical studies. Just a few words on patent and protection. We currently have 9 patent families that are valid from 28 to 39. Some of them are granted. We also believe that we will be generating know-how from the production process, but that's something I will need to come back to you at a later stage. Orphan drug designation is, of course, a very important barrier for competitors. And finally, also the full data package will be needed for anybody who tries to enter into our similar technology. So an important thing that we communicated last week is that we've decided to propose to an extra shareholders meeting on November 5 that we go ahead with a rights issue, bringing in maximum 60 million. So the idea here is that current shareholders with 3 shares will be able to buy 5 new shares at a subscription price of 1.75, which we think is very attractive to new and old shareholders. The subscription period, and if you're interested, these are the dates that you need to keep in mind: November 20 to December 5. An important thing with this is that we've been able to bring in a number of strategic investors that are participating in this and that have said that we want to be part of Idogen and we want to be here long term, which is very, very relevant. So the rights issue is guaranteed to 80%, and we will also, not directly but soon after, be moving to Nasdaq First North. Nasdaq First North is not particularly different from Spotlight Stock Market, but the intention is to move rapidly into First North Premier, which is a stepping stone to the main market in a future. We have a very experienced management team. I won't dwell too much on this in the interest of time. Just spend a little bit on what the potential could be if we are successful in the clinic a few years from now. The first one is TiGenix, a company like ours in cell therapy. They were, like us, starting in a very rare disease, in their case, perianal fistulas and Crohn's disease, but also with a portfolio behind them. So their product is now just coming out to the market. The company was sold to Takeda for 520 million euros earlier this year. The other one is a company that's well known to you, I assume. It's Hansa Medical, just up the hill. Like us, they're in transplantation, and like us, they are in a segment of transplantation, but a very interesting market cap based on data in the clinic. And obviously, this demands that we are successful with our clinical trials. And as you all know, with this kind of company, if you're successful, it's great. If not, let's go back to the lab and start all over again. So this is really my final slide. I hope I've been able to communicate to you that if we're successful, we have a technology which is very unique and something completely different that will be very helpful to patients that today are suffering and where there's a large medical need. We also believe that in this, there's lower risk compared to traditional drug development. And one reason for this is that we're not treating the patient with a drug, we're treating the patient with the patient's own cells that have been on a training course for 2 weeks, if you will use that metaphor. And finally, we have a very experienced team driving this company forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. Really interesting. I think that something struck me there. You have a elaborate plan for transitioning from list to list. You're looking at the main market. That to me signals some level of confidence in the future. So
you have to be prepared and plan for success.
For sure.
And also be prepared for difficult times. But plan for success is a good way forward.
Yeah, and Idogen, you have a really versatile technology. It can be used for a range of disorders. At this point, you have two main projects, and then you have looked into the third.
Yeah.
Are you open to would it be possible, you think, to strike a an R&D collaboration deal with a bigger pharma company at this point?
We would be very interested in doing that. We are also out continuously speaking with big pharma. Big pharma right now is very interested in cell therapy. A lot of things are happening on the market. New cell therapy products are coming out to the market. Takeda buying TiGenix is one interesting example. So there's a large interest. Some pharma companies are diving right into it, like Takeda. Other are making their plans, viewing, and waiting for the right time to step in. We believe, and I've been communicating this a number of times, that because we have a completely new technology, we are right now too early for big pharmas to enter into deals. So my belief is that we need to show in the clinic that we're successful before we can strike a deal with a big pharma. But we are very open to it. And we also have a pragmatic view that if there is a pharma company out there that are interested in another indication that we're not exploring, that's of course something that we could look into.
Yeah. And waiting for that, you have also you have managed to get a really good IP protection as well.
Yes.
Which is a strength, of course.
Yeah.
You have, like you said, you recently announced you're doing a rights issue of 60 million kronor. I don't think you're that short of cash as of now. So what's the strategy here?
So we have cash right now that will last until April next year, with a projected burn rate if we move forward full speed ahead. So this is a good time to go out and plan for additional capital. And this capital that we will get from the rights issue will hopefully bring us into April 2020, something like that, depending on burn rate.
Yeah, we're running short of time, but one final question then regarding the rights issue. You have 80% guaranteed.
Yeah.
Are you expecting like a really high sell pressure from the guarantees?
That's it's a very good question, and typically what happens if there are not a lot of the present shareholders that are part of the share issue, you have a high degree of guarantors, and of course as soon as the emission is cleared, they sell. Now in our case, we have the new strategic investors that are coming in, and if we're sort of assuming very conservatively that we will have the same amount of small existing shareholders and new shareholders coming in, that will be somewhere about 50%. And then we have the strategic investors going 22%. So that leaves you 8% or less for traditional guarantors. So we feel very comfortable that there's not going to be a large selling pressure on the share after the rights issue, which is great.